A cold wind blew through the small town, carrying with it the scent of desperation. The streets were empty, save for a few people hurrying to get indoors, trying to escape the biting chill. Among them, a mother walked slowly, clutching a small leather pouch in her hand. Her face was tired, her eyes hollow from weeks of hunger and struggle. She had no more strength left, but she couldn't stop. Her young children needed food, and she would do anything to get it. Her footsteps led her to a small, dimly lit pawnshop at the corner of the street. The sign above the door flickered, barely visible, but it was the only place she could think of. She pushed open the door, the bell above it ringing softly as she stepped inside. The warmth of the room was a small relief, but it didn't ease the heaviness in her chest. Behind the counter stood a man, tall and thin, with sharp eyes that seemed to assess everything in the room. He looked up as the door creaked open, his gaze quickly moving to the mother standing at the entrance. His face remained impassive, but something in his eyes told her he was used to people like her, people desperate enough to sell whatever they had left. "How can I help you?" he asked, his voice low and calm. The mother hesitated, her hands trembling. She looked down at the pouch in her hand, unsure of how to begin. Her mind raced with thoughts of what she might lose by walking out empty-handed. But her children's hungry faces haunted her, pushing her forward. I need food," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I can offer this," she added, pulling out a small, gold ring from the pouch. It was the last thing of value she owned, a gift from her late husband, a token of their love. It had once been a symbol of a better life, but now it felt like a burden. She placed the ring on the counter, her fingers brushing against the cool wood as she pushed it toward the pawnshop owner. "Please," she begged. "It's all I have left. Please take it and give me something. Anything for my children." The man stared at the ring, his expression unreadable. He didn't immediately reach for it, but instead, he leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing as he looked at the mother. The silence in the room was thick, filled with the weight of her desperation. After a long pause, the man spoke again. His voice was calm but firm. "I don't need your ring," he said. "We want you, not the ring." The words hit her like a shock, and for a moment, she froze. What did he mean? She had expected him to haggle, to offer a low price for the ring, but this was different. The coldness in his tone made her question everything. Was he mocking her, or was there something more behind his words? She couldn't tell, but something about the way he said it made her feel like she was standing on the edge of a decision she had never imagined she would face. "Please," she repeated, her voice shaky. "I just need food. For my children." The pawnshop owner didn't respond immediately. He simply looked at her, his expression unreadable. The silence hung heavy between them, but his eyes never left hers. Something about this moment felt like it would change everything. And then, as if sensing her unease, he finally spoke, his words cutting through the tension in the room. "There's more to survival than just food," he said quietly. "Let me show you." Her heart raced as the reality of the situation began to settle in. She had no idea what kind of help the pawnshop owner could offer. But one thing was clear: her life was about to take an unexpected turn. The question was, would she be ready for what came next? The pawnshop owner stood still, watching her intently, as if weighing her every word and movement. The mother's heart beat faster, unsure of what to do next. She had nothing left, no bargaining power, no more hope. All she had was the ring, once a symbol of love, now a token of desperation. Her gaze was locked on his, searching for any sign of kindness, but there was none. His cold eyes held a secret she couldn't understand, a quiet power that made her feel both small and, strangely, important. "You're desperate," he said after a long pause, his voice smooth but not without a hint of something dark beneath it. "And I can see the weight of your choices on you." She couldn't understand what he meant. The words felt cryptic, like a puzzle she couldn't solve. He didn't seem to care about her situation, yet he spoke as if he understood it all too well. It unnerved her. What kind of man was this, who spoke with such certainty about things he could not possibly know? Her hands clenched into fists as she tried to hold back the tears. She had promised her children she would come back with food, and she couldn't leave empty-handed. She couldn't fail them. "Please," she whispered, almost pleading now. "Just take the ring. Please, I need to feed them." The owner's eyes flickered briefly, a hint of something changing within them. It was as if he was debating with himself. Then, without another word, he stepped closer to the counter, his movements slow and deliberate. "I don't need the ring," he repeated, this time softer, almost as if he were explaining something complicated to a child. "What I need is something more than that." Confusion clouded her thoughts. What could he possibly need? She had nothing left to give. She had already given everything, and now, her last possession, her husband's gift, was about to be lost to a man she didn't even know. The thought of it hurt more than she could express. "Why?" she asked quietly, her voice cracking with emotion. "Why do you want me? I don't have anything left. No skills, no money, just this." The pawnshop owner's gaze softened for the briefest moment, and then he moved behind the counter. "What if I told you there was a way for you to gain everything you've lost and more?" he said, his voice lowering. "Not through the ring, not through money, but through something much more valuable than any of that." Her mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was offering. He wasn't asking for the ring. Was he asking for something more? The idea of a deal, a bargain, started to form in her mind, but it made her feel uneasy. What could this man possibly offer her that could change her life? Before she could speak, he interrupted her thoughts. "You don't know it yet," he said, almost gently, "but you're at the crossroads. The choice you make now will set the course of your future. You can walk out of here with just the memory of your ring and a promise you won't keep. Or you can step into a world you never imagined." Her stomach twisted, uncertainty flooding her. She wanted to say no, to turn away, but something deep within her urged her to stay, to listen. She had nothing left to lose. "Make your choice," he said, his voice sharp now, as if he knew what was coming. The air between them crackled with tension as she stood frozen, her heart torn between fear and an unexplainable pull towards something she couldn't quite understand. What was the pawnshop owner offering? What could possibly be more important than the survival of her children? The air in the pawnshop felt heavier now, thick with unspoken words and the weight of her decision. She could barely breathe as the pawnshop owner's gaze never wavered, his eyes piercing through her like a hidden truth she wasn't ready to face. Every instinct inside her screamed to walk away, to take her ring and leave. But something about his presence kept her rooted to the spot. It wasn't just the strange offer, there was something more beneath the surface, something she couldn't explain, yet couldn't ignore. "Listen," the owner finally said, his tone more deliberate now, as if choosing his words carefully. "This isn't just about food. You came here for survival, yes, but survival doesn't always mean what you think it does. There's more at play here, something that goes beyond your immediate needs. You're being given a choice you may not fully understand, but it's a choice that could change everything." The words hit her like a rush of cold air, sharp and shocking. Her mind raced to comprehend what he was saying. Was he talking about some kind of deal? A twisted barter? She had come here for something simple, food for her children, but now it felt like she had stumbled into something far more complicated, something she was ill-prepared for. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice shaky but tinged with a desperate edge. "What are you offering me?" The pawnshop owner stepped closer, and for the first time, his expression softened, almost as if he understood the weight of the moment. "What I'm offering is not something you can touch. It's not food or money, but something more powerful." He leaned in slightly, his eyes gleaming in the dim light of the shop. "I'm offering you a chance to rise above the situation you're in." She recoiled slightly, instinctively stepping back, her pulse quickening. This wasn't the kind of offer she had expected. It wasn't something tangible. No gold, no food, no quick fix. This was different, and the unease she felt deep in her gut grew stronger with each word he spoke. "I don't understand," she said, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and confusion. "How can you offer something like that? What do you mean by rising above? I need food for my children, not whatever this is." The pawnshop owner smiled, but it was not a kind smile. It was knowing, almost as though he were watching a scene unfold that he had seen before. "Survival isn't just about food," he repeated, his voice calm but tinged with something darker. "It's about power, control, and understanding your worth. You have something within you, a strength you've yet to tap into. You can survive, yes, but you can also thrive. The question is, Are you willing to step into that unknown and claim what's yours? His words sent a chill down her spine. Was he talking about a kind of power she didn't understand? A new world where she had the ability to take control of her life, to escape this endless cycle of struggle? She had spent so long fighting just to survive that the thought of thriving, of truly breaking free, seemed impossible. Yet, somehow, the words stirred something deep within her, a hope she had buried long ago. All you need to do, the pawnshop owner continued, is trust me. Trust that what I offer is worth far more than that ring. Trust that I can give you the strength to change your life. Her mind was a blur, her emotions tangled in a knot. Could she trust him? Could she believe that there was something more to this moment? Something bigger than just a simple trade? She had nothing left to lose. Her children's hunger gnawed at her, but the pull of what he was offering, the promise of something beyond mere survival, was too powerful to ignore. For the first time, she felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years: hope. And in that flicker, she knew she had to make a choice. The question was, would she take the leap into the unknown, or walk away with nothing but the remnants of her past? The pawnshop owner's voice cut through her thoughts, pulling her back into the present. You're standing at the edge, on the brink of something that could change everything. But it's not a choice that can be undone once made. Are you ready to step into a new reality? She stood there, frozen, as his words echoed in her mind. A new reality? What did he mean by that? Could she really leave behind everything she had known, the struggle, the pain, the constant battle for survival, and step into something unknown? Was it even possible? Her hands trembled as she clutched the pouch, the last remnants of her past, her husband's ring. Now just a distant memory. She had come here for food, for something tangible to take back to her children. But now it felt like she was being offered something far more dangerous, something that tugged at the very core of her being. The pawnshop owner moved closer, his eyes never leaving hers. I can give you a way out, a chance to break free from this cycle. But it's not something you can see with your eyes. It's something you'll feel, something you'll know deep down. It's an opportunity to regain control of your life, your future. She swallowed hard. The air around her felt suffocating, as if the room itself were closing in. The uncertainty was almost unbearable. She could still see her children in her mind, hungry, waiting for her return. And yet, the pull of his offer, the possibility of something more, was like a magnet she couldn't escape. I don't understand, she whispered. How can this offer help me? What exactly is it that you want from me? The pawnshop owner smiled, but it wasn't a reassuring smile. It was knowing, almost calculating. It's not what I want from you. It's what you want for yourself. It's a chance to take back the power you've lost, to stop being a victim of circumstance and start making your own choices. You don't need to rely on handouts or the kindness of strangers. You can become the master of your own fate. Her heart raced as she processed his words. Could she really do that? Could she stop being trapped in this endless cycle of desperation? The thought terrified her, but it also thrilled her. She had always been at the mercy of others, her circumstances, her poverty, her children's needs. She had never truly been in control. She looked down at the ring again, the one thing she had left of her past. It was a symbol of everything she had lost, but also of everything she had fought for. Could she give it up, let go of that last piece of her old life, for the chance at something better? Could she trust this man, the stranger who spoke of power and control, of a future she couldn't yet see? The pawnshop owner seemed to read her mind. You're afraid, he said quietly, but fear is what keeps you stuck. You're standing at the threshold of something new, something powerful. It's up to you to decide if you want to take that step. Her mind was spinning. The possibilities were endless, and yet so terrifying. But in that moment, something shifted inside her. Maybe it was the desperation that had driven her to this point, or maybe it was the spark of hope that flickered, just barely, in the back of her mind. Either way, she knew one thing. She couldn't go back to the life she had. Not anymore. With trembling hands, she slowly placed the ring back into the pouch, her fingers brushing against the cool metal one last time. She had no idea what this man truly offered or what the future held, but she knew that staying in the past was no longer an option. All right, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Show me. The pawnshop owner's eyes gleamed with a mix of satisfaction and something deeper, something that sent a chill crawling up her spine. He motioned for her to follow him, his steps sure and purposeful. Without waiting for her to respond, he led her through a narrow doorway at the back of the shop. The air grew thicker, heavier, and she felt a strange tension settle in her chest. As they entered the small, dimly lit room, she could barely make out the figures that lined the walls. Odd, metallic contraptions that hummed softly, their purpose unclear. The walls were covered in strange markings, symbols she didn't recognize. A deep sense of unease washed over her. This was not what she had expected. The pawnshop felt like a strange, otherworldly place, far removed from the small, humble shop she had entered just moments before. The pawnshop owner turned to her, his face shadowed but his expression unreadable. "This is where things change," he said quietly, his voice echoing slightly in the small room. He motioned to a chair in the center. "Sit." She hesitated, but did as he instructed, feeling her pulse quicken. Her mind raced with questions. What had she gotten herself into? What was the price she would have to pay for whatever it was he was offering? The owner walked over to one of the strange devices, his movements deliberate, as though he had done this countless times before. He flipped a switch, and the low hum of the machinery grew louder, vibrating through the floor. "This," he said, "is the key to your new beginning." She looked at him, confusion clouding her thoughts. "What is this? What does it do?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked back to her, his eyes now sharp, focused. "It's not about what you see. It's about what you feel, about what you're willing to accept. It's a transformation, one that requires sacrifice, but the rewards, they're worth it." Her heart began to race. The room felt smaller, more oppressive. She could hear the distant echoes of her children's cries, the hunger gnawing at her. The fear that had been building since she first entered the shop now tightened its grip on her chest. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. The pawnshop owner stepped closer, his gaze intense. "What you're about to experience is not something everyone can handle. You'll have to make a choice. It's not just about surviving anymore. It's about taking control of your destiny. Are you willing to step into the unknown? Are you ready to leave your old life behind and take hold of something more?" She didn't know what to say. Could she really walk away from everything she knew? The thought of it felt both terrifying and exhilarating. Could she really let go of the past and embrace something completely different? The owner reached out, offering her a small device that pulsed with an eerie light. "This is the first step," he said, his voice low and coaxing. "All you have to do is accept it, and then everything changes." Her mind swirled with doubt and fear. She wanted to turn back, to run, to leave this strange place and never look back. But in that moment, she knew deep down that she had come too far to walk away now. She had made it this far, through the struggle and pain. And now, she had a choice: stay in the darkness of her past, or step into something unknown, something that could change everything. Taking a deep breath, she reached out and took the device. The moment her fingers brushed against it, a surge of energy pulsed through her. The room seemed to spin, and for a brief moment, she felt a strange sense of power. But it was fleeting, vanishing as quickly as it came. The pawnshop owner smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. "You've made your choice," he said softly. "Now, there's no going back." She nodded slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. There was no turning back now. What had she just stepped into? Only time would tell. The world around her shifted as soon as she held the device. The room seemed to fade into the background, replaced by a sudden, overwhelming sensation, like she was no longer confined to the walls of the pawnshop but floating, suspended in a strange, unfamiliar space. Her senses tingled with an energy that felt both foreign and familiar at once, as though something deep inside her was awakening, pulling her in directions she couldn't fully comprehend. The pawnshop owner's voice echoed in the distance, though she couldn't make out the words. It sounded like he was speaking to her from a far-off place, though he stood just a few feet away. His words were lost in the whirlwind of sensations swirling around her, flickering lights, sounds she couldn't identify, and a faint hum of something much larger than the room she was in. In this new reality, she felt weightless, as though her body didn't belong to her anymore. She closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. but it was as if everything had been turned upside down. There was no ground beneath her feet, no clear path forward. Just endless possibilities, each one brighter and more vivid than the last. The panic that had gripped her heart moments before began to recede, replaced by something else, something more primal, more powerful. The fear was still there, but now it was laced with curiosity, even a strange sense of wonder. She felt the deep ache in her chest. The hunger that had driven her to this pawnshop began to fade, replaced by a surge of energy that ran through her veins. Suddenly, a sharp voice broke through the chaos, pulling her back to reality. "This is the beginning." The pawnshop owner's words came clearly now, though his tone was laced with something almost ominous. "But it's only the first step." Her heart skipped a beat. What did he mean? This couldn't just be about survival anymore. She wasn't just here for food or to get out of the cycle of poverty. There was something more, something far beyond what she had imagined. She opened her eyes, trying to focus on him. He was standing right in front of her now, his gaze intense, his presence dominating the space. "What did you just do to me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Her mind was racing with questions, but she couldn't form the words fast enough. He smiled, but it wasn't reassuring. "What you've just experienced is called awakening, a glimpse of what's to come." Her breath caught in her throat. Was this some kind of test, some cruel game to push her past her breaking point? But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that it didn't matter. Whatever this was, whatever he had just opened up inside her, she couldn't undo it. She was no longer the same woman who had walked into the pawnshop minutes ago. "You've unlocked something within yourself," the pawnshop owner continued. "And now, there's no going back. You've seen the potential, the power you've been holding inside all along. The question is, what will you do with it?" Her mind whirled as she looked at the device in her hand, still humming with that strange energy. She hadn't just made a choice. She had stepped into a new world, one she was only beginning to understand. And the truth was, she didn't know if she was ready for what lay ahead. But one thing was clear: her life was never going to be the same again. The moment the device's hum faded, a silence filled the room. It was almost unnatural, the kind of stillness that made the air feel thick, suffocating. She stood there, her hands still gripping the object, now warm to the touch. The sensation of power still coursing through her, but with it came a gnawing sense of uncertainty. What had she truly unlocked? What had she just agreed to? The pawnshop owner's shadow loomed large before her, casting a long, almost imposing figure on the floor. He was watching her closely, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. There was no comfort in his gaze, no warmth, only the cold precision of someone who knew exactly what was about to unfold. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The magnitude of the situation hung heavy on her, a weight she wasn't sure she was ready to bear. Her heart raced in her chest, a quiet but constant reminder of the uncertainty she now faced. Her children, her reasons for everything flashed in her mind. Had she made the right choice? Could she really leave behind everything she had known, everything she had fought for? "You're not who you were when you walked in," the pawnshop owner said, his voice low and steady. "And neither is the world around you. What you've just stepped into is far greater than any survival. You've opened the door to something you can't yet see, but soon you will." His words didn't comfort her. In fact, they only deepened the confusion. She had never asked for this. She hadn't wanted to be some part of his twisted game. But now it felt like there was no turning back. The path she had taken was irreversible, and she had no idea what awaited her at the end. The room seemed to shift, subtly but unmistakably. It felt as though the walls were closing in, as if reality itself was warping around her, becoming something both strange and familiar. The energy that had surged through her moments ago had left its mark, but now, it was like an invisible current running through the very air, an undercurrent she couldn't fully grasp. "You felt it," the pawnshop owner continued, his voice softer now, almost coaxing. "The power within you. The question is, will you embrace it? Will you allow yourself to take what's been given to you and shape it into something more?" She clenched her fists, fighting the overwhelming wave of emotion crashing over her. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from the unknown that now seemed to be unfolding before her. She had come here for food, for a way to survive. But now she was standing on the edge of something far greater, something that could either consume her or set her free. "I'm ready," she said, her voice a whisper, but her words carried the weight of a decision made. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew that she couldn't go back. Whatever this was, whatever this power had unlocked within her, it was hers now, and she would figure out how to use it. The pawnshop owner's lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. Good, because the real journey is only just beginning. With those words, everything she knew, the world, her life, and her struggles seemed to fade into the background. What lay ahead was no longer a question of survival. It was a question of power, choice, and a future she had yet to fully understand.